Welcome to How Talk Good, the podcast where we believe you can learn something from anyone. My guest today is a good friend of mine, a friend I've known for many years. Yeah. Please welcome Aaron.
I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and agreeing to do this.
Of course.
I know it's a little bit of a drive for you, but I'm glad you made the 30-minute trek out here.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, and I get to hang out with you, so I mean,
right? It's always a good time.
Yeah, no.
And with our crazy work schedules and our lives,
yeah,
we don't always have time to do that as much as we'd like.
Of course,
but life is as it is.
Yes, but I'm extremely glad to be here. I'm extremely excited, and I'm ready to, just get in the nitty gritty of life.
Are you nervous at all?
A little bit. I mean, I'm always nervous of like being on like a stage, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up doing acting and stuff, and and whatnot, and you just get butterflies no matter what.
Those are the good kind of butterflies. So yeah. I like those kind of butterflies. The butterflies of like the performance butterflies.
Yeah.
I get that too. Like, I've done some stand-up comedy. I've been doing this for a little bit now, and I've done played live music, and I always get those butterflies. But it's like it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. Like,
yeah.
But what if something goes wrong? But I don't care. It's still going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have nothing to.
I'm
be
not
nervous.
Too worried about
it. Because it's just me and you talking, and some people might watch it.
Yeah.
Some flies on the wall over there, as we say.
Yeah.
So I think we should start out by saying how we met.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What are your recollections of how we met?
So the first time I met you, I was...
You don't have to portray me in a positive light if you don't want to.
I mean...
I've changed a lot since then.
I don't think even... I'm going to portray myself not in a positive light.
Yeah.
So I was like 15, 16, something like around there. And I was friends with Eric, our mutual friend.
Yeah.
And went over to your apartment with you and like Alex and them and and Peter and Brandon and all these people, and you lived next door to Eric.
Yep,
and so I went over there and we got drunk.
Yeah, we did.
And we played Magic. And I think the first time I met you,
Magic the Gathering, for anyone not aware.
Magic the Gathering.
Trading card game.
Super enthusiast.
Yep.
Long-time player. But I think, you were stomping me. We were drunk and drinking, and you were stomping me with a mono blue control list.
After this, I'm going to be charged for contributing to underage drinking.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think I was only like 19.
I don't think
like that.
I think pretty much the whole apartment was underage drinking.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Those were the days.
Yeah. But yeah, and we kind of bonded over Magic, and we bonded over friends, and we hanging out, and eventually we just like became very close.
As most teenagers, we bonded over drinking.
Yeah, we bonded over drinking, but it like our friendship has grown substantially.
Definitely. I mean, as we have become more mature, so is our friendship.
Of course. And so like, and then and our friendship's even grown even more, I think, in the past few years.
Definitely in the last year or two.
No, of course.
I mean, I know I've changed probably... I could almost say more than I've changed in my entire life in like the last 2 years.
Oh yeah, no, I can agree.
Physically too.
Yeah, no, of course.
But it's pretty awesome that Magic kind of brought us together.
Yeah.
It started as like the base of our friendship, and it's still a part of our friendship today.
Of course it is. Yeah.
mean, people I think sometimes underestimate gaming or like brush it aside. It's just like an activity without direction, or it doesn't have any meaning, or why are you wasting your time with that? But like the relationships and friendships you build from that, and the experiences you have through gaming, like they matter, and they're important.
Of course they do, and like they're some of my best memories and friends and relationships have came from playing games or having that kind of what would I say? Like intimacy, like more of like that kind of interaction.
Yeah.
Social interaction.
It forces you to interact socially. Yeah. And I don't know if you were similar, but like I wasn't always the most social, like when I was growing up, like when I was a kid. I've always been a bit of an introvert, but gaming, helped bring me out of my shell and forced me to interact with other people. And I'm sure you heard the end of the second part of the conversation I had with Sarah, where we were talking about how we went to that Magic tournament and didn't know if we were going to have money to make it back, but like we were just so dedicated, and like so many stories like that come from from gaming like and Magic in particular. We've gone to multitudes of Magic like tournaments, and like we like played and tried to like win and make something, and like I found it fun for a while, but like my competitiveness is like different, and like it was mostly I more than the game, it was mostly just spending the time with like the people I was with, right? And that was a big part of it for me too. Like I haven't been much into like traditional like video gaming in a long time. It kind of like lost its luster for me once I stopped having people to play with. But I continued to have people in my life who enjoyed playing Magic with me. And that's kind of what drove me to continue to play Magic, is that like social interaction and something fun to do with people that you care about.
I agree. I completely agree.
Like for me, like gaming, I don't particularly enjoy just like, not anymore, like sitting on the couch and like playing a video game. I know you enjoy that sometimes, but
it depends on the game. It has to be like very like intricate game, and like I really only play like role playing games, and I really only play ones that are made from Software.
That's very particular.
Essentially I only play Dark Souls and those kind of games.
So you like something stimulating,
or like Skyrim or something, like something stimulating and something that I can spend hours doing, and like doing something and having fun, or breaking the game and just like being nonsensical, but not like overly violent. Like it doesn't have to be like Grand Theft Auto. Like I'm not like kind of into that kind of stuff, but it's mostly just like I need something that for a few hours that gives me. But like Magic is like the thing that I'm into. I mean, you know, I collect like the reserve list and old school cards, and I do sell product, and I'm like, cardboard life is my life.
All about that cardboard crack.
Yes, all about that cardboard crack.
So it's kind of fuzzy for me, remembering the first time meeting you. I mean, a lot of that era of my life is fuzzy for obvious reasons. For one, it was years ago. For two, there was a lot of alcohol involved.
Of course.
I mean, I don't even drink anymore, and you drink pretty rarely. So we've matured a lot in that way. We're not alcoholics over here.
No.
But I do remember stomping you and Mick with that mono blue control deck I made.
Just getting boomeranged over and over again was very disgusting.
And that was a lot of fun. And I think it was through you and Mick, maybe more Mick than you, that I like discovered what a format was.
Mick very much brought format to my light.
I figured out what standard was, and like that the reason I was stomping y'all was because I was essentially playing a legacy deck against like standard decks. But the deck I had would not have stood any chance in an actual legacy tournament. It was a budget deck. It just wanted to counter everything and bounce everything to your hand and spin its wheels until I think the win condition was a 2/2 unblockable.
It was like something dumb, or it's like your opponent conceding.
Opponent gets annoyed and concedes. That's my win condition.
I mean, that's a no win con decks are perfectly fine.
Right. But it's kind of fuzzy. I don't think I remember necessarily the first time I met you. Like I'd heard about you. I remember hearing about you before that. From like friends, like mutual friends that we had, but I don't remember the first time meeting you. So in my mind, it's weird. It's almost like I didn't know you, and then one day we were friends. So it goes from like not knowing you to we're friends, because I don't really remember like the first time meeting you and getting to know you.
And I mean, to be honest, that night might have not been the first time we met.
Yeah,
who knows? Might not been. I mean, it's also kind of fuzzy. But again, I was we might get into my past, obviously.
Yeah,
but I wasn't in a great place at that time.
Yeah.
So like, even as a kid, I was very drunk a lot.
That's a great quote. Even as a kid, I was very drunk a lot.
Yeah.
If I was going to make these videos clickbaity, that's one of the things I use. I'd put it in quotes, like in the title or in the thumbnail. As a kid, I was very drunk a lot.
Oh, yeah. That would get people to click a lot.
Yeah. I was very drunk a lot, and I hope you click a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
So, and then we ended up spending a lot of time together. I stayed at your house a lot.
Oh, of course. The red couch and, like, beanbag chair and basement
me and
life.
You killing in your basement, playing Magic Workstation.
Oh, my God, Magic Workstation.
With our, like, weird whatever format decks that didn't make any sense.
Whatever we played. Or, like, the nights where we would play, and, like, Eric's, like, papered proxy deck where we would play like fairy band cards.
Yeah.
Cards that are not so busted that we didn't know they were busted.
We didn't know what we were doing back then.
We had no idea. We were just having fun and enjoying our times together.
And then walking up to the gas station and buy peace teas.
Oh yeah, I remember buying cards off you with peace teas.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I love my raspberry peace teas.
I used my mom's food stamps to buy magic cards for peace tea.
To this day, whenever I drink a raspberry peace tea, which I don't do too much anymore, it's loaded with sugar, which I didn't care about back then.
No, of course.
But to this day, whenever I drink a raspberry peace tea, it like takes me back to like being in your basement.
Yeah.
Like all those memories come back. Like just opening the can and like smelling it, I'm like, those were good times.
Yeah. Anytime I actually like look at it, I'm at a gas station and see them, I remember specifically getting, and I think it's a terrible card, but like I think I bought like a card with like the triple green, like quadruple green, and one like has Rampage like 4 or something stupid, and I was just didn't know what I was doing in
we
the
were
game.
Timmies.
I was such a Timmy.
Yeah.
I had dragon decks and like I was a Timmy, and now I'm like not. I'm a combo.
Yeah.
Johnny combo player.
But it's interesting because even though we've been friends for 10 plus years and we've hung out a lot and spent a lot of time together, it's interesting that like when you become friends like through a hobby, and a lot of times when you hang out, you're enjoying that hobby together.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of the other stuff about like being friends kind of goes by the wayside. Like, there's a lot just in the last couple of years that I've learned about you that I never knew or
completely the same.
Didn't know before, because we'd hang out and like play magic and play games together and talk about that, but not talk about real shit.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how like you can know someone for a long time, but only in a certain context.
Yeah, and you only know them at a certain level. You don't. Yeah. There's no like deeper understanding.
Right.
So, yeah.
So it's really interesting that like just in the last couple of years we've gotten to know each other like on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And it's strengthened our friendship and our understanding of each other.
Yeah, it's brought us really close, and it's actually like made I think of you more of close as a very close, deep, like best friend.
Right, yeah. That's the way I think about it too.
Than I did previously. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were like my magic friends for such long time.
Right, yeah.
And now you're even more.
And it's funny how that can work out, like how you can have like different friends for certain things.
Yeah. No, of course, yeah.
But like I mean, friendships come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to, just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean you have to be connected on a deeper level. Yeah. Like those kind of friends are okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've definitely I've had some friends in my life where like I knew that like they weren't necessarily like the best person or whatever, and I didn't really connect with them on a deep level. Yeah. But like I enjoyed doing certain things with them or found them fun or entertaining to be around.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's okay to have certain friends that you recognize you have to keep at arm's length for reasons. And,
I mean, some people are just, like, some people have a toxicity about them or more, not just toxicity, they have an ability to not, like, be able to go deeper.
Yeah.
Like something is inhibiting them in themselves to not be able to open up.
Right.
And sometimes you can just feel that, especially if you're empathic. I'm pretty empathic. I'm an empath. So I can feel the room. And so, like, knowing that's really helped to deepen friendships. And it's really helped me to know that, like, some friendships are just, face value.
Did you always know that about yourself, or did it take some time self-discovery to learn that?
No, I've always known, and I've gone against what like my nature for a while due to like traumatic events and things, and like I've always known that I've been an empathic person. Just been kind of, when I was a kid, I've just been very, like, understanding my feelings and, like, understanding how and feeling others. I've always been able to feel a room and kind of know what people are feeling and how to interact with that. And
so you've always kind of had a base understanding of, like, yourself, like who you are.
No, I have. And if I've gone against it, it's because I was hurting myself from a traumatic event, because I would believe I wasn't, like, worthy. And I think a lot of people go through that. And but especially since I've about 22 is when I started, like, my spiritual journey into myself of, like, like, introducing myself to myself, essentially. So
yeah, I mean, even if you know yourself on a base level, or you think you do, like, you change over the years, and sometimes you don't take that time with yourself to learn the new person you are.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to, like, stop and take a deep breath and be like, okay, who am I now?
Yeah. Because, like,
oh, hi, Aaron. Nice to meet you. Yeah. I'm Aaron.
Yeah. And, like, I got to know myself on a deeper level and understand myself. And I credit that to my ex-wife. She was kind of, in that regard, she was good about, like, always saying something about understanding yourself, even if she didn't, do it for herself. She encouraged stuff like that. And she was kind of all about spirituality and stuff. So that kind of...
Was she kind of your introduction to that?
Not really. My mom was very spiritual, like, when growing up, very into, like, the, like, metaphysical universe and stuff like that. So no, I was kind of in it as a kid, got lost out of it, lost my way a little bit, and then came back after some therapy and other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then being with her kind of pushed you more in that direction. Maybe take a second look at it.
It made me take a second look. And then, like, through college years, I had, smoked weed and psychedelics and other things when I was young, and then kind of opened my gateway and kind of get it to the point where it's like, I mean, like, I don't do any drugs or anything now. But it allowed me to view the world in a different aspect, and I can forever have that. Like, I can always look back on that viewpoint. So it really changed how my mindset worked. And she introduced me to that kind of stuff. And so...
Was with her, like, your first time having a psychedelic experience?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was my first time.
That's a big thing. Like, that can change a person a lot.
It was a big thing. That night, I started crying. And it was a very moving spiritual thing. And I understood how my brother with Down syndrome felt. Like, experienced life. The overwhelming love and compassion. The no animosity towards anyone or anything. Just how I understood, and I don't think anyone will believe what I'm, if you don't believe what I believe, then that's fine. But this was my experience.
Right. And those experiences are different for everyone.
So I felt that I understood how someone with what we can classify as a mental disability is not really. It's just how they perceive the world as what I was perceiving the world as. And it's like when you know something, when you have a revelation about something, it's kind of like that awe-inspiring revelation. And the emotions that came about it were glorious. And I can remember that, even sober. I haven't had psychedelics in years, and haven't smoked weed in years, and haven't done anything like that. And like I said, I don't really drink. But being sober, I still can recollect all those memories. I can still work my mind as if I was under the influence of psychedelics without the need of
It's good that the lessons you learn from those experiences you can take with you, once you sober up. It'd be, some people have to do it, or say they've had to do it more frequently because they kind of lose it and have to get it back or recall it. But it's great that you were able to kind of retain that knowledge and retain that experience.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful for those experiences that I've had, and I've lived a lot of life.
Yeah, just from the little bit you said, I'm there's so many ways we could branch off this conversation.
Oh yeah, I view my life. It's weird. I view my life as chapters of a book that are just progressingly different. Each section, it's like a book split into parts. But each section is a book in itself. And so
that's a really good description of life.
Yeah. Cause there's so many things I've done or experienced but now I have nothing to do with that. And it's just looking back on it. And I don't have any, I grew up in a single parent family. My mom and my dad are divorced. I can talk about my life with my mom. She's a wonderful lady now. I agree, but there was some neglect. She was going through schooling. She when we were young, she was assaulted sexually, and that really messed her up. And we don't know this as a kid. I didn't learn this until I was older. So it's and then with that, so as a kid, you have somebody that is dealing with something like that, raising 2 children. Grew up pretty poor. I remember eating cereal as a kid for dinner and thinking it's okay, but it's really not. It's struggling. My mom would wake up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to go stand in food lines without our knowledge. Had St. Vincent de Paul gift us Christmas presents, but my mom did everything she could for us. She would try to provide food. She would cook our meals. She took us to daycare, which I can talk for hours about my daycare experiences. I had bullies and dealt with stuff at young ages and cliques, and life is crazy, but I felt abandoned, I would say. That influenced my life a little bit. Influenced how I, grew up and became very resentful to my mother. And after she was assaulted, she also, she's going through school, so she's trying to get her degree. And then she got on medication with a therapist, and she was with that therapist for 10 years. He has no license, and he was a quack. He experimented on her with medicine that just gave her whatever, didn't matter. So, my developing years were spent with a woman who was given medication that didn't have to work or not work or messed her up psychologically. I don't hold it against her at all. And we have a steady relationship. It's not very deep, but it's improving as the years go on. But that
I'm sure it'll improve further, like as the years continue to go.
And that really influenced how I perceive the world. It influenced. I mean, I lost my virginity at a young age, and then my partner at that time, she killed herself, and that really messed me up for the longest.
We're definitely going to get to that. I want to talk to you about that, but let's move back a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
So
I can just keep going.
No, I know you could. But I do want to dive into some of the stuff that you said more fully. So you said that, now you understand the situations that your mom was going through.
Of course.
And that you're not resentful or anything now.
No.
But if you try to put yourself in the mindset of being that kid and not fully understanding those things and not knowing what your mom was going through, it can be tough when you're a kid because your experiences a lot of the times are so base level.
Yeah.
And you think in terms of like,
one-sided.
These are my surroundings. This is what's happening to me. You haven't really grasped the capacity yet to like think about everything that's contributing to that. You just think about how you're experiencing the world. So when you go back to that and you think about your experiences as a kid, like how do you remember how you felt then? Were you more resentful, or were you like not fully understanding the situation? How did that feel?
As a kid before puberty, I felt alone a lot. And I was a very studious kid. Didn't really have a lot of friends. I had some neighborhood friends. But I didn't really connect with people, and I was mostly on my own, and I felt a lot on my own. And so I felt resentment, of course, because of the fact, like, my sister was also bullied me as a kid. So I felt abuse from my sister, and then I felt neglect from my mother, and then I felt abandonment from my father, really, because he rarely was around, and he had a new family, obviously, and I have two brothers that are half brothers. One has Down syndrome, and one doesn't. They're like 21, and they're like 23 and 22 and 20. It's crazy. But
so back then because you didn't really understand, you were like more resentful and more
didn't understand. I was resentful. I felt abandoned. I felt alone, and like there was a lot of times I remember specifically, weirdly, at like 6 or 7, I was like crying on the steps for some reason, asking to go home, and because I didn't feel like where I was home. And
that was, you were at home on the steps?
Yeah, I was at home on the steps.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you felt that isolated and that like disconnected from what your world was at the time, that like, this can't be home.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And I didn't know where home was, but like, I didn't feel like I was at home. So.
I've never heard that before. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's something that's stuck in my head, and like, I've built my life to make home, and I feel like I'm at home now. Like, where I'm, like, not the place, but the people I'm with and the people I've surrounded myself with.
I mean, that's really what home is.
Like, of course.
Physically, home can be anywhere.
No, yeah.
But how you feel about where you're at in your life and the people you surround yourself with, like, that's home.
But at like 6 or 7, as a kid, I think you've had the best analogy for that we are all the protagonist of our life. Yeah. But we have to realize that everyone feels that way.
Right.
And I don't think as a kid, you don't understand that. I don't think you truly can understand that even until like you're like later 20s. There was a moment in like my later 20s where like my mindset flipped, where it's just like, come out of this fog.
Yeah. I think it takes some life experience to understand like, oh, the world doesn't revolve around me.
Yeah. No.
because as a kid, I think probably it evolutionarily makes sense. Yeah. For like kids to think that way because they just need to protect themselves.
Yeah, you need to stay alive.
Yeah.
And to protect yourself, you need to only think about
because
yourself.
You're very vulnerable as a child.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's probably an evolutionary reason for why we have a harder time with empathy and understanding other people when we're kids. Yeah. Because I think evolutionarily, like, we are just focused on survival until we reach a point where we can defend ourselves.
Yeah. And I think I was very empathetic as a kid, but I was also still stubborn and selfish. Yeah. And there was moments where I would be like there was moments where I would just get upset or angry, and my mom would let me express my emotions. She would just let me blow up, which I don't think is wrong, but I don't think is right either. I don't think you should just let your child blow up and calm back down. But I think you should allow your child to always, children to express their emotions completely, no matter what.
Looking back, how, if you could choose, how she handled that situation with you, how would you have preferred that the situation be handled?
I think she should have taken more time to understand why I blew up. Instead of letting me do it, that's fine letting me blow up, right? But, instead of letting me yell and scream and cry and go, but, actually afterwards, maybe talk. Or just ask why. Ask more questions. I think people don't ask their child questions enough.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, I don't think we communicate how we're talking now. You can do that with a child. Yeah. They're also people. They're also just have emotions and don't understand what they're going through. And they have life experiences that we don't always experience the same life experiences as a child. Still, you might know about being a child. I remember being a child, but I don't remember being that child. I'm having a daughter. So
congratulations!
I'm having a daughter in June, but
that's amazing. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks, but I'm not going to experience what she experienced. Yeah. So who's to say? I might remember being a child, but I don't remember being what she might go through, stuff that I've never gone through, and it might not seem minuscule things might be big to them, but you should still make them feel if they feel like it's big, then it's big. It's not minuscule. Big things to you might be minuscule to another person.
So if you went back and you could choose how you would experience that, you would have had her try to understand why you were feeling that way and try to explain to you why you were feeling that way and help guide you through it.
Or have me talk about why I blew up. Ask, be if I do it, don't scold them for, being angry and feeling their emotions. But ask them why they felt their emotion. What steps they could take afterwards to maybe not scream and yell. Maybe it might feel better to let your emotions out, but there might be a more healthier choice to let your emotions out. Maybe do a hobby that painting or music or writing or scribbling words on a piece of paper, just letting all of it out, or crying, or sitting and talking, or sitting and just silent, or just listening, sitting and listening to your child just babble or talk whatever they want, just letting someone talk.
I think in general, people might underestimate how much benefit can be had from a conversation. Yeah. And it's probably weird as a parent to think of having, real conversation with your child because there's this whole other aspect to it of you have to be the disciplinarian. You have to try to be a friend. You have to...
Yeah, you have to think you're the, too many adults, and sadly, but too many, parents think they're, you have to be the authoritarian and, your way, the highway, or, and it's no, they're just tiny humans. That's it. They're experiencing life in the same way.
Right.
I'm quote unquote an adult, but there's no, besides brain capacity, development, and life experiences, there's nothing that really defines me differently than a child. Even they have more wonder, and like, I wish I could have the same mindset as a child to experience life and new things and wonderment the same way.
Yeah, it's easy as you grow to like become jaded, or like, you know, everything feels the same.
Exactly. And that's that, and go back to the whole psychedelic thing. That's what I think like it feels like to be Down syndrome. You can have the capacity to think like an adult, right? You can have your adult life experiences, but you still have the wonderment and innocence as a child. And that's what it felt like. And if I'm shouting back to previous, kind of like bringing it full circle, but yeah, I felt that resentment, and I think she handled it well to a point.
Yeah, especially knowing what you know now about the situation that you didn't know then.
Exactly. She handled it as well as she could. She handled me and my sister as well as she could. I mean, you can only, as a person, you can only go through so much. Yeah. And if you go through a lot of traumatic experiences, like, there's just so much brain capacity you can have.
And I think another reason why it's important to actually have conversations and talk to your kids is every kid's going to be different. You don't know. I mean, it's not a one size fits all approach to raising a child. You have to learn like who that child is, like who they are as a person, to understand what kind of parent you need to be. Yeah. Because some kids are going to need more direction and more discipline than others. Yeah. And others are going to be like very straight and narrow. And if you're too hard on them, you might push them away.
And if you're too lenient, you allow them to run rampant, like me. Like my mom, when she was like through my teenage years, like she was going through that whole, quack doctor medicine. Like she would sleep all day and not know what we were up to. And I was drinking and smoking and doing whatever in the backyard and in the basement. I had friends over all the time. We had, you were there. We did I did whatever I wanted. I was very mean, very disrespectful to my mother.
I do remember like hearing like fights between you and your mom, and you yelling at her.
Yeah, I was very disrespectful.
And at that point in time, I didn't feel like we were on the level where I could like address it or talk to you about it. Like I remember kind of wanting to, or thinking like, ooh, this doesn't seem like a good situation. But I was young too, and I didn't fully understand like how to address it
and I was lashing out. I was blocking out my own traumatic experiences. And so you have two people blocking out their traumatic experiences and not talking about it, not being comfortable opening up. Like I wasn't comfortable opening up to my mother. I didn't have respect for her. Because I didn't know anything about her.
Right.
So I didn't know what she was going through. And I mean, she didn't find out she was seeing a quack doctor till like 7 years ago. So it's like,
what are you going to do about it?
Like, I'm almost 30. So I mean, I was already in my 20s and out of the house, and like, then she finds out, and like, guy goes to jail, and she spent 10 years of being a experiment for someone who didn't care about human life, essentially.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah. That's insane. I can't even imagine. Literally, I can't imagine the audacity of a person. Like, I've become such an empathic, like, caring individual who is just completely opposite of who I was as a teenager, and as a young adult. And I can't imagine what my mother goes through today, even today. So,
you mentioned before that it kind of feels like you think of your life as kind of like chapters in a book, but each chapter is
like a part of a book, like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4.
Right. Do you ever look back on the old chapters of that book? And well, hold on. Do you ever? Because sometimes for me, I'll look back on past chapters of my life and have a little bit of imposter syndrome. where like it doesn't feel like me, like experiences I've had, because when you change so much as a person, it almost feels like, for me anyway, when I look back on my life, like it feels so surreal to think like, oh, that was me too. Like that also was me, even though I can't imagine that happening to me now or me acting in that way now. Do you ever experience that?
All the time. Because I'm very much a deeper thinker, and I've looked back so many times and like I was such an asshole. Right. I was such a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And I can't explain. I can't be like sorry enough to the multitude of people. And like I've had moments. I've apologized to a lot of people, like especially like my relationships, like personal relationships with people, and I've apologized for like my behavior, and like. Even without, I didn't need a response back. I just said, "Hey, I feel regretful. And I'm letting you know that what I did or what I said or anything was not okay, and I'm sorry for that fact."
It's weird how, even though it doesn't feel like you when you look back, how you can still feel so much regret for it. Of course, and how disconnected you can feel from the person that you used to be.
Yeah, I can't imagine myself at all as like between the ages of 13 and 20. Yeah, about 20 is when I like woke up, was like, oh God, what am I doing? Well, I started therapy in like when I was like 19, 20, when I was in the military. And then my therapy progressed me towards more. And then towards starting my spiritual journey into knowing myself and to loving myself and understanding myself.
Do you kind of consider the start of therapy kind of like a closing of a chapter and the beginning of another one?
It closed my how do I put that? The chapter in which I was self-destructive. Destroying myself through just blocking my emotions, through putting on a face of that wasn't me, to denying my emotions, my empathic nature, my demisexualness. Like I need, like that means like that's my sexuality, is I'm a demisexual. I need a connection, a very deep emotional connection, to be sexually interested in a person. And so like that, like I used alcohol and drinking and fornicated a lot to block out all my traumatic experiences as a child.
Did that leave you feeling emptier than you did before?
Oh yeah. It's such a self-destructive mentality, and it's very common with demisexuals who go through any kind of traumatic experiences. And it's very common with like empathic people too, that it's just that you get lost in those kind of situations and you don't know how to really ask for help. And eventually I broke down and asked for help, and I got help and went through my emotions and went through what I could. And
I think I don't know if you've ever noticed this or experienced this, but talking to some people that are recovered or recovering addicts, a lot of them are some of the most empathetic and like in tune people and self-aware people I've met. Yeah. And when thinking like that, it's not hard to imagine why they fell into addiction, because they do these things to escape something. And then once that high is over, they're left feeling emptier than they were before. So they need to keep chasing more and more of a high and push things down more and more, because the way they feel things is too intense for them to bear, or at least they feel like it is. So they keep chasing that dragon to escape themselves.
And it was crazy because like I quit smoking cold turkey. I haven't had a cigarette or want for a cigarette in like 8 years. So like, and I just woke up one day, was like, I'm done. And didn't look back. And around smokers all the time, and I was married to a smoker, and she tried to quit multiple times and never worked. And like,
that's crazy, man. It's one of the hardest things to quit. Yeah. I've struggled with it for years. I'm still struggling with. So like,
but I was an addict and an alcoholic, but I knew I could quit any time, but I did it because I wanted to destroy myself because I believed I deserved it. And that was the level of, like, I wasn't addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to destroying myself for penance. Penance for no reason, really. I had no reason to have penance because my experiences were out of my control.
Right.
And I realized, like, you can say if, what, then all the time. You can say, what if I did this? What if I did that? But I could. But I should. But you can't really, you don't have control over other people. You only have control of yourself.
I'm glad you were able to break the cycle because from my perspective, hearing you tell that, it sounds like you were regretful for the way you acted in your youth and kind of resented yourself. And then you kind of got addicted to punishing yourself. But the way you punished yourself through being alcoholic and addict caused you to act in worse ways again, so you felt like you had to punish yourself even more, and it kind of seemed like a cycle of
I was like a
self-destruction
addict, essentially. I'm not an addict with drugs or anything, but like I'm addict for like sexual nature and stuff like that, just because like it's just, and like it's completely against my nature, because like I've come to learn that I need a deep relationship to actually be comfortable being sexual with somebody. And so going against my base nature was also destroying myself.
Right.
And hurting myself because I didn't feel good about it.
And then you had more stuff that you wanted to cover up.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
kept making yourself feel worse.
So. Yeah.
So for you, therapy really helped break that cycle.
Yeah. It helped me understand and kind of like be okay with it. I was prescribed medication for a while, but I didn't like how it made me feel on it. Not that it didn't make me feel good. The feeling good was not, you don't need that all the time. I needed to understand my emotions. I think it took a while for me to, when finally I understood my emotions, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'd agree, like, no disrespect or of any kind to people who can have to be on medication and continue to be so.
Of course.
But I think for some people it can be kind of a stepping stone.
I needed it for a while, but I didn't need to be on it forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's fine too.
Yeah.
I kind of want to step back a little bit. So
of course.
We talked about your mom and your relationship with her growing up and how that's improved now that you're more mature and wiser and understand her and her experiences better.
Yeah.
What about your dad? What's your relationship with him?
So my dad, I never had a real relationship with my father growing up. But we had, I would go over there and he loves me and I believe he loves me.
Was he around when you were born?
Yeah, he was around when I was born. My mom and my dad split up when I was like 18 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My mom also had cancer when I was like born.
Wow.
Or like being born. She was like going through cancer treatment.
Oh,
it was crazy. Like
that is crazy.
I don't know what.
If labor wasn't enough,
so
put some cancer on top of that.
So, my dad is an alcoholic. Like an actual alcoholic, and he doesn't drink anymore. No, he doesn't drink as much anymore, and he very rarely drinks, and he's getting better, and he's doing more stuff. But
do you have a first memory of, because he left when you were 18 months, did he continue to stay around in your life?
Yeah, I remember like before he got remarried, and like he would come pick us up. We would go to my grandma's house. I remember like his mother, he lived at his mom's house for a while, and I remember staying over there, her cooking us pancakes in the morning, and like I remember that house, like that was where all the party, like our family gatherings were, and we had a lot of family gatherings, like every other weekend. The family would just get together and have fun, grill out, and do stuff and whatnot. So, but it's really all just like, it wasn't ever a deep connection. And it's not, and through the years, I slowly just stopped like being in his life, and like we just grew apart. And now I've forgiven, and I've forgiven the same way as I forgave my mom about like life and stuff, and things happen, and like you had a new family, you had a Down syndrome kid you had to deal with, you had another kid you had to deal with, you had your life that you're going through. So, I mean, it was rough. I mean, it's hard.
Do you think that contributed to your feelings of abandonment when you were a kid?
Yeah. Plus, he lived in Ohio, and he still lives in Ohio. Funny enough, my mom lives right down the street from my dad.
Oh, wow.
Because my mom lives with my grandma. And so they live like right next to each other, which is funny. But my mom would say bad things about my dad, which also probably contributed it. Yeah. At a subconscious level. And, but yeah, so I've forgiven everything, and it's me and him, it's more of a face value friendship. It's like we're friends. Okay. And we can hang out and have fun, and I can bullshit and be okay. But like, and I want him in my daughter's life, and like, I don't want anybody not to be in her life. And if it brings us close, that's great. But it's similar. He's in a similar respect as he is with my sister. It's pretty much just friends. There's no real deeper meaning to it. Yeah. And I don't find it bad. Like, I don't mind.
Right. And sometimes that's okay with family. Like, there's just on the level that, you know, you're blood related, there will always be somewhat of a deeper connection there. Yeah. But with what's expressed, like, it doesn't have to be deep. Like, you choose the people that you have those connections with.
Of course.
And you're not always going to connect on that way with your family, and that's okay. Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, I've had to do this with some members of my family, to keep certain members of your family at arm's length because you feel like they're damaging to you in some ways, or not even that, just that you have other aspects of your life that your focus is better put towards. Yeah. Especially if there's not a deep connection there. So I see nothing wrong with that.
No, of course. I might be having a better connection with my mom and understanding, but my mom still has a toxic selfishness about her. And that's something that she has to deal with. And that's something I don't gain a deeper understanding, because my mom, in all of the things she's gone through still, and I don't fault her for any of it, she's still very only about her. And sometimes she tries to use that to her advantage in negative ways. So I try not to, I limit my interactions with her. But yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're wise to do so.
Yeah, no, of course.
And it doesn't sound like you've got your heart closed off to eventually developing a deep relationship with your mom or your dad. Yeah. But just currently they don't seem that they're at a place where they're capable of doing that now.
And they don't willingly bring it forward.
Right.
Like, my mom will ask about how I'm doing.
Yeah.
But then contextually she wants something out of it. And that's not okay.
No. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of people like that, where you kind of feel like they're only talking to you to because they want or need something, or they're only asking you a question so they can answer the same question, have an excuse to talk about it. But with a parent, it feels worse, I think. Yeah. With a parent.
Yeah.
To know that, it almost feels like you're being taken advantage of a little bit. And with, like, friends or like random people, like, it feels bad, but it doesn't feel like as bad with a parent. Like, that's
definitely different.
That's different.
It's definitely different with a
Well, I think we're going to take a quick break right there, and then we'll be back. All right, we're back. So we've touched on your relationship with your mom and your dad, and sort of that aspect of your life growing up, and to go a little more deeply into pre-therapy, Aaron, that sort of like first chapter of your life.
So like after, like more like puberty, Aaron, kind of like that.
I wanna ask about something that you mentioned where you talked about like one of your earlier like romantic and relationships like that you had. What happened there? Like, what was that like?
So. This is like, so when I was in 7th grade, my cousin, he was 10. His name was Michael.
Yeah. And you were how old?
I was 12.
Okay.
I was around 12. And we were like really pretty much best friends. Like he was like, we grew up together a lot, played, and every other weekend, like I said, we were at the family was at grandma's house. So we were like, we had a very deep bond. Yeah. He passed away, with just out of the blue. No reason. They don't know why he passed.
Wow. Some sort of weird health reason maybe they couldn't figure out.
Nothing could be found out. So he just woke up, like my aunt woke up one day and he was blue and he was on. So that really hurt me. That was like that was like the break in the glass. That was like the abandonment from like childhood and all those emotions and everything that was, and like just hitting puberty, and so all these hormones and everything going, it was all working against me essentially. And that was like the break that really started shattering, and making me spiral and go into that self-destructive nature.
Do you feel like that was sort of a beginning of a loss of innocence for you?
Yeah, it really was.
Like a realization that like, oh, this ends one day.
Yeah. And it was really like, and it can end anytime. And it's like, what's the point? It was really, that was the kind of the emotions I was feeling.
So a bit of nihilism.
Yeah, there. Like a lot of nihilism. And I kind of just went into myself and stopped giving a shit. And
because it wasn't only a family member, it was like a best friend as well.
Yeah, essentially. It was like
That's a lot for a 12-year-old to process.
Yeah, so it's a lot. And
man, I'm sorry to hear that. That's
I mean, I'm smiling now, and it's not out of like, oh, that's funny. It's more out of like, it's crazy to think about. It's insane to think about now of like how much a child went through. Yeah. Going from, like I said, a 6 or 7-year-old crying about wanting to go home inside of his home because he couldn't feel like it was home. And that's a deep thought for a child. And then going through all that abandonment and then having
it's kind of a deep thought without realizing as a child, like
exactly
how deep that goes.
And then feeling all those emotions and having all that and culminating it. And you don't really understand your emotions until you really hit puberty, and then get out of puberty, which is when you really understand everything that you've went through. But it doesn't actually solidify until that. And then at that moment when like your functionality, your functional self, your actual what is going to make you, but you won't really realize it until later because hormones are terrible.
Yeah.
But at that moment, your best friend, essentially someone you thought you would grow up with, dies. Just breaks you. And like, so I lost myself, and I delved into myself, and I found a relationship and my first relationship with like a person, and
first romantic interest.
Yeah. I had previous romantic interests as like a child. Yeah. I was very adult in my, I knew who I liked and I would like them, and like I knew what it meant. And
so from an early age you were like, I like girls and I like them a lot.
And not just girls. I liked guys too. I thought guys were attractive. I didn't like them sexually. And I knew what sexuality was and what sex was, because my mom let me watch CSI, and there was a lot of actual sex knowledge brought through.
Wow, that's a horrible way to learn about
like
sex.
I knew what a blowjob was, and like stuff like that was like, I knew what these things were as like an 8-year-old, which is not a great.
You kind of learned about sex through a lens of violence.
Yeah,
a lot of what CSI was.
Essentially. But like I knew what it was, and it was like, so I knew I liked who I liked. I knew about like romance and understanding, but I never like pursued it as I did until like I started being more and started like destroying myself, essentially. And
you start going through puberty around that time?
Yeah, around like 11, 12 area. And I got into a relationship, and
do you remember how y'all met?
School friends, yeah. Like we were hanging out in neighborhoods and stuff. Would walk from school to the neighborhood with buddies, and met through like mutual friends or something like that. I mean, so, but it was like kid relationship for the longest, but I grew close to somebody, and I talked, and like I felt a connection with her.
Did you kind of feel a connection with her that you felt like you were missing out on with your family or your home life?
Yeah, and I think that's what like really led me, and it probably wasn't as like deep a connection as I can have now, but it was the closest I had.
Yeah, perspective means everything. Yeah. So perspective at the time, that was like the deepest connection.
The deepest connection I've ever had. And it felt good. And it was also toxic in its way, because it was like I was escaping from my emotions.
Right. You were putting them into this relationship instead of processing them.
Yeah. And so we were dating for like a year or so, and we so when I was like 13, and she like was going through whatever she was going through. I have no clue. And that's why it was like, it was deep, but it wasn't like, it was face value.
Right. Looking back now, it's more face value.
Yeah, we were both, I guess, running from something. And
when you're kids, it's hard to process that. I mean, this sounds like, at the time, it seemed like the most mature relationship you'd had with another person, but
it was.
Looking back, you realize like, oh, I was just a child. Like I couldn't really have that kind of connection.
I couldn't even understand what she was going through or why she did what she did. But yeah, she committed suicide. And so that broke everything. Like Michael might have been the stone that started shattering, but that was all the glasses gone. It's just, so that just led me to being who I was. I put on that face, that bravado asshole, didn't give a shit about anyone, was angry, was resentful, was mean. I had relationships in high school. I didn't have another relationship until I went to high school.
That's so crazy that, and so sad, and man, I feel for you that basically the two people up to that point in your life that you'd felt the most connected to, you lost.
Yeah. So it stuck with me for, I didn't start therapy until 1920.
Yeah.
I went through years of just, and a lot of it's a blur.
Do you feel like you had to kind of at the time, maybe you didn't recognize that this is why you were doing it, but do you think you had to kind of adopt this different persona because it was too difficult to face your true self and what you actually were going through?
100%. I adopted a face so nobody knew what I went through and nobody knew who I was. I didn't want anyone to know who me was anymore. Only I can know who I am.
So you already were kind of closed off emotionally just because of the way you grew up and the way you were raised. Yeah. And then these, two people that you connected to left your life. Yeah. And I guess, did that make you feel like you had to push away even further?
Oh, yeah. It just made me feel like no one truly deserved to know who I was.
Or like, what's the point? Because I'll just
that too. What's the point? They're just going to go away, and I'm going to lose them, and it doesn't matter anymore. And I should just do whatever the fuck I feel like.
Do you remember actively thinking this, or actively having a conversation with yourself about this, or like strategizing about it, or did it just kind of happen instinctually?
No, I talked to myself about it. I like wrote down in like journals and stuff, and like I actively put on a face. And like I was open about it sometimes with people, and like but I like stopped having like until high school I really didn't have many friends, and like I didn't have like a huge group of friends. I had like one or two, or I would just go hang out with people that I didn't have, like people that I would hang out regularly with. And so when high school hit, I changed my persona, and I got in with a group of friends that weren't the best. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we met when I was in high school, and I mean, like, we weren't the greatest. Yeah. It's not like we're not like valedictorians of our, high school, and like, but we were all like, we all just like, it probably wasn't the best situation for somebody that was going through what I was going through.
Was it all kind of like a collection of misfit toys in a sense?
Yeah, essentially. And like, so like I hung out with like the jock kids and like the skater kids and like the metalheads, and like started smoking cigarettes and drinking and all peer pressure and stuff of that nature.
Now, did you understand at the time, or do you have any memory at the time of understanding that what I'm doing is bad for me, what I'm doing is hurting me?
100%, yes. I knew I was doing stuff that wasn't great for me, and I was, even though I was destroying myself, I was like, the group and clique I was a part of, I was still the one with a level head to not like do too much. It was like, hey, this is probably not the best idea. And I was still like that kind of person, but I was that for other people, but I would destroy myself.
Do you think that's something that you learned, or do you think that's something that was always kind of instinctual in you?
I think, to be honest, I think that like I always was instinctually okay, like know what was good for people, and like what, and like wanted to protect other people and not like let them. And I think that comes from the fact that like the empath side of me, like being able to read the room and like read a situation and feel how everyone else is feeling, and like kind of like flow it into the right direction, or just instinctually know where like the right direction is.
Do you think that aspect of your base personality kind of gave you like an innate sense of right and wrong?
Yeah. Oh, it did. And it's kind of something, it's kind of the clarity that was like when I decided to join the military. Was like, I decided to join the military at like 17. So wow. It's kind of like when I woke up, it was like, I'm quitting smoking. Like I woke up and was like, I need to get my life together. And it was like, it wasn't to get my life together for, like, betterment of, like, my mental health. It was get my life together for the betterment of my, like, my overall life was going to be not great.
Like financially, like have a
career, like schooling. Like I dropped out of school and went to get my GED, and I passed the GED exam immediately when I went in there, and they were like, "Why did you drop out?" And it's because I just didn't give a shit.
When did you get your GED?
I didn't get my GED. I went back to high school.
Oh.
I went and took the exam. They told me I passed their entrance exam saying I could read. They were like, you can, whatever testing they do to like see what you need to get your GED. Yeah. They said I passed that immediately. That I could go take the GED exam and do it. And then I was like, that day I went over and my mom was working at like a daycare near the GED exam place.
Yeah.
And I went in over there and I was like, yeah, I'm done. And they told me why I was there. And I was like, that day I just realized I wanted to do something else with my life. So I decided to join the military. I joined the Navy.
So, did you finish high school?
Yeah. So that day, when I went to join the Navy, they told me to go back to high school. So I re-enrolled, went through summer school, made up every course of my junior year except 2. So I passed that all in summer school with like A's. Then went to high school my senior year, took 2 to 3 extra courses, passed it all with A's and B's.
Wow.
And buckled down and went in to join the military.
So you had to have been really driven to want to do this and pursue the military.
Well, I wanted to get my life together, and it was mostly because the friends I had kind of weren't going anywhere.
Right.
And I didn't want to end up like them.
You saw them being stuck and you didn't want to end up stuck.
Yeah. And I didn't want to, I realized I wasn't getting to college with my grade point average. I wasn't getting into anything else except like working at a shit job. And I know how like my mom struggled with money and finances, even having her degree, and her degree isn't great. She's like has an acting and communications degree and stuff. And like, I wanted to do something meaningful, and I wanted to travel, and I wanted to get out of there. And I was also escaping. There was also a way to escape my...
It seems to me like ever since that turning point where you lost those 2 people that you were closest with, that your life from then had been running away.
Yeah, I was looking for any means to escape, and how far away can you get is halfway across the world.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that about you, about the GED thing, where you dropped out, went to do the GED exam, passed, and then the military recommended you go back to school, and then you busted ass to do that. I didn't know that about you. I had a somewhat similar experience with GED. I wasn't sure if you knew that I had my GED and didn't graduate high school, but I dropped out when I was 16. Yeah. And then when I was 18, similar thing. Like, I was always a smart kid. Yeah. But how good of a student I was determined by how much I cared about the subject matter.
Yeah. I was kind of the same way.
But I went and did the entrance thing for the GED, passed with flying colors, took the GED, passed with flying colors, actually got scholarship offers because of my GED scores, and didn't do anything with them because I was young and stupid and didn't care.
Yeah. Essentially. So
that was similar for you? Like you were, I mean, obviously you're always smart, but were you always a good student?
So I was actually throughout until high school. I was very studious, and I was always in I skipped 2nd grade, went into a 3rd grade class, so I skipped a year, moved up, was in advanced classes all the way up to 8th grade. I was in advanced classes in high school, 9th grade, freshman year. And then kind of I gained a clique of friends. those friends were pretty self-destructive, and I was already susceptible to it. And so I just stopped caring about doing work. And I mean, right now I have an advanced degree, and I'm I went to college. I have an advanced degree and God, I'm losing myself, in chemistry, and I have a mathematics minor, and I'm love math and science, and very studious, and I still look up stuff, and I busted my ass and all that, but and I enjoy that kind of mentality. But it took me, but definitely when I was a kid, when I was a teen, I stopped caring because I had emotions I couldn't deal with and a shattered soul, essentially.
I think that ends up happening to a lot of kids, smart kids when they're younger. They hit high school and either get caught up in the social aspect or other things that they're more passionate about. For me, I was, throughout middle school or throughout elementary school and most of middle school, I was always head of the class. I was on the debate team and the what's that called? The thing where you know facts. I think they call it quick recall team or something. But it's kind of like Jeopardy. Like that team. And then I hit high school and I started caring more about girls and about friends and playing guitar.
I played baseball for 10 years.
Wow.
Until Michael died. I was on a baseball team and I was very good. I was a catcher. And I got accepted to go to Covington Latin. We just couldn't afford it. My sister went and she threw it away. And I hate her for that. Oh, kidding. I don't hate her for that. But,
I know.
But to put some humor into it. But no, she was on there and I was on their swim team as a middle school kid. I was on a high school swim team that I didn't go to their school. So
wow.
I did sports and I did all these things, but just.
So you're always pretty athletic.
I was athletic and studious, and I enjoyed. I was, I took algebra in 8th grade. So I was in advanced mathematics throughout my whole,
And then
a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah, despite the way you grew up, you kind of had this connection to some people that made it feel better, and then you lost them and some other things happened and you kind of lost track. Is that, at what point did you realize you wanted to or felt like you needed to join the military?
I was having the thought a couple months prior to taking that exam, but it was that day when I passed. They asked me why, and they gave me a question of why. And I was I just was sitting in the car and I was just looking around and I was kind of looking at places my mom's working and doing stuff. And it's I don't want to do that. I don't want to be stuck in a rut and be stuck in kind of the same old shit. And realizing what I was going through, going back home with to friends and they're kind of doing the same thing, and I was just I don't want that life. And it's also I was I wanted to get away. Is that still that same feeling of wanting to get away? So that was the turning point of why I wanted to join the military.
So did you premeditate going, or did you kind of see a place where you could apply and just spur of the moment decide to go in there? How did that
No,
work?
I premeditated going, and I knew where I wanted. I knew I wanted to go in the Navy because I wanted to travel the world and didn't want
to. So you grinded your ass off and you graduated high school.
I did. And then I graduated in May of 2011, and then I left for basic on October 2011.
So I mean, some of the best stories I've heard were people who were in the military.
Yeah.
I mean, you just go through just the nature of the job. You go through so much crazy shit.
Yeah.
What was that? Because it sounds like a lot of your childhood was very unstructured and you had a lot of free range. Was it difficult to adjust to being in a very structured environment like Basic?
So Basic was like, it was actually easy to like, it was enjoyable to have the structure. And I realized I like routine now. Yeah. Like I realize how much I love routine and having a routine.
Did it come of kind of a relief to you to have that structure? Yeah. Like, oh, I've been missing out on this?
Kinda. And like, because of the nature of Basic, like when you get to Basic, you're kept up for like 72 hours awake, no sleep.
Yeah.
And so eventually you're just like, you like lose track of life and what it is. And like, you don't think about it. And like, I smoked cigarettes up until that point. And then like, I had to quit, right? Like, you can't smoke at Basic.
Right.
But, like, you stopped caring about it. And, like, it was great because for someone who was, like, escaping, you had no thought other than what you had to do. So I never dwelled on any of that.
There was no room for dwelling.
There was no room for dwelling. I didn't dwell on my past until I was hurt in, out to sea. I got hurt on deployment. I fell down a ladder well and hurt my back and my arm, and I got stuck in pretty much I just cleaned our berthing area where we slept and like did like menial tasks, but I wasn't I was put on, medication, and anytime you're on medication and stuff, that you can't be on the flight deck where I worked. And I just like I broke down. Like we were in port. And like I was out and I got drunk and I just kind of like broke and kind of like, cause I was thinking of like suicide and like stuff of that nature. And like, I just broke down to a buddy and my buddy Bartle, and at the time, and I told him about like me thinking about suicide and stuff. And they sent me to see the the doc, and that was like the moment. That was like the best thing I could have done in my life.
I definitely want to. I want to get back to that.
Yeah.
But I want to step back a little bit. So you started Basic, and you started to kind of like enjoy the structure behind it. Was there ever a part of it where you felt like this is too hard, I can't do this, or did it just make you more motivated?
No, I was always motivated. There was a moment, so there was a time in Basic where like I had really bad hemorrhoids, but they weren't like and a lot of people, I'm sorry if this is graphic, but but a lot of people get them because of the food and the structure of nature of like working out and stuff. But they were internal, so they weren't seen. And so like I was bleeding, but like I didn't know why, and it didn't like hurt me or anything. So I couldn't really feel them, and they couldn't find any evidence of it. So like they didn't say it was that, but they told me I could have Crohn's disease. So you tell somebody who's already like, and like, so I'm like, I thought I had a disease I was going to have for the rest of my life. I was going to have to deal with. And I'm already, so they like, I couldn't, and then they put me on like light duty, so I couldn't work out or do anything. And I still worked out in secret in my bunk area, and people knew I worked out in secret. Like the people around me knew what I was doing, and I wasn't supposed to be doing that.
Do you remember why you did that?
Because I didn't want to lose out on, I didn't want to, because if I'm not allowed to work out, and I didn't want to lose like progress essentially. I wanted to better myself, and I wanted to keep up the work. If everybody else is doing it, I wanted to be also doing it. And I might not have been able to, I might not have been what we quote unquote called beat, is like where they, if somebody does something wrong, they work everybody out until they're dying, essentially, till the walls sweat.
So I think there's probably a lot of people that would see, that medical issue that popped up as an excuse or a reason to kind of like take it easy, like I get a break. It's really interesting that you didn't see it that way.
No,
you were like, you saw it as a speed bump. Like, fuck, I don't want to take a break.
Yeah, I didn't also want to leave. Yeah, I didn't want to get kicked out of basic. So like,
to you at the time, that seemed like would have been one of the worst things because you wanted to run away so badly. So
I couldn't let myself fall behind even, so like that went on for like a month, and eventually I went and got a like whatever it's called, like where they stick a
colonoscopy.
Yeah, colonoscopy essentially, and then they found out and everything was fine. And then I like my first workout after that, my RDCs were very surprised at my agility and my overzealousness, and I felt really good, and like I ran the best I could because
they were probably expecting you to come back a little fucked up. Feeling.
And they were like, and they're meant to be assholes, and so like seeing me on light duty and sitting in my bed, they were like they didn't like that. They pointed it out, made other people feel like they're meant to be fucking dicks. And it's stupid and it's terrible. But
they're not there to be your friends.
No. So yeah, they were very surprised, and other people were surprised that weren't sitting next to me. But people who knew what I still worked out and did stuff, and I still put effort in, weren't surprised, obviously.
So they were probably impressed with you.
Yeah, they were impressed.
Was that the possibility of having a serious medical condition that might make you have to leave?
Yeah.
Was that the hardest part about your experience in basic?
Yeah.
Not the basic training itself, but the possibility that you might have to leave.
Yeah, basic training was, when you look back on it, it wasn't terrible. Yeah, there's moments where it was like, oh fuck, I felt like I was dying, but that was the hardest part, was like knowing that I could leave, because there was a guy who had a seizure during our training, and he was medically gone, and you don't get like, until you were out of basic, you're not a part of the military. Yeah. But you're kind of a part of it. You're in this weird limbo where like, if you get out on a medical thing, you don't get benefits. But once you're out of basic, you get benefits. And everything's okay. But I just didn't want to leave. And I had a drive, but like I didn't know why. I was running away, but also didn't know why I was running away, and still was like, I blocked out why I was running away. So I had moments of clarity of knowing, but like also not knowing, because I was blocking myself from knowing why I'm doing the things I'm doing. But yeah, that was probably the hardest part.
So you mentioned, eventually getting really depressed and having to go to therapy. What was your experience in the Navy like up to that point?
It was fun. I gained a lot of friends, and like we spent time together, and like
I remember you talking about playing Magic on the ship.
Like playing Magic on the ship, and like the guy had his own actually owned like him and his wife owned a store, and he had stuff shipped out, and we had like sponsorships, and we had like tournaments and drafting, and it was awesome. Like I enjoyed it. And even after that, like my time after that, when we got back and we were decommissioning the Enterprise, and I went to tournaments with people. We spent nights in hotels and like playing tournaments and doing stuff, and Magic still was a big part of my life. But I actually started playing the tournaments was after the therapy thing, because I wasn't actually long. It wasn't long. It was about a few months after deployment that I got hurt, and I was in the and I like got on meds and did all that.
Before we go into that, so I'm sure, we could probably sit here for 3 hours and tell, countless stories about your experience in the Navy. But I do want to touch on this a little bit. So I kind of want to know, just for my own personal reasons, I'm sure the viewers will be interested.
Yeah.
What's what place did you visit that you enjoyed the most or you'd like to go back to again? And if you had like one crazy or interesting story from your experience in the Navy, what would it be?
All right. So place I visited only in the Navy. All right. I won't talk about places I visited outside the Navy.
Yeah.
But places I visited in the Navy that I enjoyed the most. It was, I've had some weird stories. But Greece was probably, I would love to go back to Greece again.
Yeah.
Greece was weird. There was a moment where like, so I was in Athens and I went out one night and we got euros and I was like, I was drunk and we got euros and we were eating them walking and there was this like gypsy lady selling flowers, right? And she kept trying to get me to buy stuff and she was using all the tricks in the book like, oh, I'm pregnant and oh, I need money and just trying to swindle us essentially, and very much trying to swindle us, like very obvious. And I was still an asshole. Nothing like how I am now, but I handled the situation and I didn't like touch her or anything, but I said words to her that were probably hurtful and mean. Again, I was drunk and I was mean, and bad light, but,
were you still kind of in that headspace where you had this adopted persona?
Yeah, I was still in that adopted persona, phase. And, but yeah, Greece was like, what? But the 2 nights after that, I'm in a totally different part of Athens, in a bar, talking to some ladies, and the same gypsy girl comes in, offering me a flower again.
Wow!
And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? and she. So, like, I bought a flower, and I gave it to the girl that I was talking to, because I was trying to get something. And, but yeah, that was, like, and, like, there's just, like, moments in that time where it was just, like, weird. Like, I think back on those, like, why did I have to meet this same person twice? And, like, what could have happened from that, meeting that person? But, that's probably one of the craziest things. I didn't have like very crazy like nights. I mean, I got to know a Chinese brothel manager in Bahrain, pretty well, because apparently every group I went with, I was the DD, and it was easier to drink on base than it was out in town, and we're in the Middle East and stuff. But there was a Chinese brothel right outside the Bahrain base, and my first group asked me to like be the DD and go with them, and they decided to go there. And there's actually a actual massage parlor next, like near, like 2 doors down, like that gives actual massages. Yeah. This one just says Chinese massage, and it's really just a brothel. And so I'm just sitting there smoking cigarettes with this dude, and then like every day, because so that port, I won like I was working with the cooks in what's called it's called cranking, where you go and help out people, and it worked out because I couldn't do my regular job because of medication, so I went and helped out. It's called staterooms, and I just cleaned officers' rooms and made sure they were clean and the spaces they were in and their toilets, and made sure their lives were peachy. Yeah. So I won some kind of like raffle where I got the next port was I only had to work one duty day. And fortunately for me, and unfortunate because of Bahrain's not great. Middle East isn't a great port to be in. Right. There's not a lot of stuff to do, essentially. I would love to have been stranded in like Italy or something.
Did you yourself ever visit one of the brothels?
No. I
so you enjoyed some of the local ladies, but never...
I never would pay for sex.
Was that like a pride thing?
That was a pride thing. I would never pay for it. I might go and be mindless and drunk and have to be drunk to have sex because I personally need a deep connection. But I would never pay for it. And because I knew subconsciously I knew that would break me. Like I would be very like I wanted to hurt myself, but I didn't want to kill myself, essentially. And that would kill my soul. Right. And nothing against people that, have sex for money or do stuff like that.
Especially a lot of the brothels outside of the U.S. are legal.
Yeah, they're perfectly fine, and
some of those people have health insurance.
So, but it was just not something for me.
Yeah,
and there's also stories like there's a lot of like I've been to strip clubs and like I DDs there, and they're essentially brothels because like.
Right, yeah.
As long as you have the money. And so, yeah, just like I ended up having my two duty days off, and I only had to work one. So I essentially only worked one, and because fortunately for me, we were there for 14 days, and so I only worked one day out of 14 in vacation. Essentially, it was essentially for like we ported, we were out to sea, we were on land.
Yeah.
So I was free a lot, and there's not a lot to do in Bahrain besides drink. And so like a lot of guys just asked me to walk, like hang out with them and be their DD, and we ended up at the Chinese brothel a lot, and so I ended up knowing the guy. No names. We didn't exchange names, but we talked a lot of things. I asked him questions about what his work was like.
Was there any kind of language barrier?
Or? Kinda, but like we got by. But yeah, that was probably the weirdest situation. And
what was his life like? Was he happy?
He seemed to be, as far as I could tell. Like everything was fine. I mean, like. Oddly enough, the Middle East, the minority is Chinese people and Asian people. And they work all like the menial jobs and stuff. And like, especially Dubai, it's either you're rich, you own a Lamborghini, or you're poor and you drive a taxi, or you're every person, every like waiter or waitress or like cashier in the Dubai Mall is like Asian.
Weird.
Yeah. It was very odd. It was like way more population. But yeah, most people are just like, it's weird in that situation. But I would love to go back to Italy. Is my place I want to go back to. But yeah, those are some of the weird situations.
Man, you've definitely lived a life. It certainly sounds like the Navy experience have given you some experiences.
It definitely opened up. It opened up avenues to, getting better about myself and opening up and dealing with my past and everything else. And I'm grateful for that. But it opened my love of traveling. So, and that really is like, I love the best thing that came out of the Navy was one, me opening up and getting the help I needed, and two, traveling and gaining my love of the nature and the outdoors and traveling and doing all that.
So what? So it sounds like you were pretty engaged in everything, and you had a pretty interesting time. You had some hobbies and some friends.
Yeah.
What led to you becoming depressed and feeling suicidal?
So I was stuck cleaning the birthing area, right? And where we slept. And so we had 2 shifts. So somebody was always sleeping. So I worked in a dark room with no light to the outside, not allowed to go up into the sun, alone, thousands of miles away from home, away from anyone I knew, in the middle of nowhere. And I was alone pretty much all the time. So it was just very depressing nature.
Especially when you seemed to be in a place where you were kind of like still running and covering stuff up. It had to have been difficult to be alone with your thoughts.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it was, is I was alone with my thoughts. And so when I couldn't sleep, I was having nightmares, just remembering the past. So I was just I would be out on the crow's nest, just looking at the sky or looking out into the blackness of the ocean and just looking down, realizing what I could do. And yeah.
So you kind of were up there and looked down and realized that, this could end, or you could choose to end it.
Yeah. So I had that thought a lot.
Do you think drinking so much kind of contributed to the depression?
Oh, yeah. You don't get to drink on the ship, but when you're in port, you drink a lot. And don't get me wrong, there's a tasty alcohol out there.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, it really contributed to that. So, and I still drink. I still drink after getting help. I still was kind of an alcoholic. Mostly social drinking and stuff.
And any kind of substance or thing that you indulge in doesn't necessarily have to be bad, in the context.
Yeah.
And in that context of wanting to push stuff down and run away from things, that's what was damaging. Maybe not necessarily the alcohol itself.
No, it was the meaning, the intention behind it.
Yeah.
And when the intention changed, it was more social and fun and enjoying myself and camaraderie. And
so that happened. You started to feel isolated and depressed because of your job. And do you remember kind of the thoughts that would run around your head that would make you feel that way?
Yeah, it was just I was I'm all alone. What's the point? Nobody really knows me. What's the point in doing any of this? What have I done? What am I doing? Why did I do this? It might be better just to end this. Yeah, I could just end this now. I could just drop myself on top, drop myself from the crow's nest. I could just go wherever I want. Nobody's really watching me. It's not like there's cameras or anybody is looking over my shoulder.
And you thought about that in depth.
Oh yeah.
Was it at that point that you had the thought that the facade, the persona that you'd created for yourself, was it at that point that you realized that was not what you wanted to do anymore, not what you wanted to be anymore?
I think it was the moment. It was I was actually really drunk at a port and coming back to the ship, and I think during that time we were walking and we were going back onto the ship and everything was going good. There was just a clarity moment when I just was I'm done running. Mm-hmm. That thought was I'm done running, or and it was you're done running, and
this was still pre-therapy.
This was pre-therapy. Was this so that was the moment when I opened up. Was hey, I need help, and so I sobered up and went to therapy and started talking. And
was it beneficial to have someone to tell this to, and how did they respond to you talking?
So I didn't tell them why, but I just said, hey, I'm thinking of suicide. And I'm thinking of killing myself, and I need help, and I would appreciate if you, not in those clarity words, I was crying and other stuff, but in the grand scheme, that's kind of the gist of what I said. And they got to me to talk to somebody, and the therapists were really he really helped me. And they helped me get through everything. And I had a therapist all the way up until I separated from the military. And I talked to some VA therapists, and I had some therapy afterwards. But like, eventually just, it came out that like, I was like, I have like antisocial, like, personality disorder. Like I'm more like, it's not, I've actually come like better from that. Like I'm not as like interpersonal, but like I can't be social for too long, and it's a mix of my introvertedness and like just the trauma I've gone through. It's just like put me to that place where it's like social events give me anxiety, and I would get like I only went to Magic tournaments because I had medication and other stuff, and it took me a very long time to get to the point where I'm at. And social events still like get me on, like take a huge toll out of me. I was like, the last, I went into a Magic tournament, and I had needed like 2 weeks to like recover.
Yeah.
So like,
I think a lot of people kind of, I've talked about this before, but I think a lot of people kind of misunderstand that about what it means to be like an extrovert and introvert. Like extroverts kind of recharge through social interaction, and introverts kind of recharge through alone time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people still kind of look at or hear someone say, I'm an introvert, and think, oh, they just don't like social interaction. And that's not true. I mean, every introvert I've ever met enjoys social interaction. Yeah. But they can't do it all the time because they have to have their alone time to recharge.
Yeah.
Extroverts, like, if they're alone, then they need to go be around people to recharge. And that helps them feel better and recharge. So there's a distinction there that a lot of people still don't understand.
No, of course. And I think mixed with like these just, I had that, and then just like the antisocialness of my just being like, of the trauma I went through, just trying to like close myself off. I just couldn't open up as well as I wanted to.
Now, when you started going to therapy, I mean, you'd opened up to someone, and it seemed like you were willing to accept that you needed someone to talk to or needed help.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point when you started therapy that you resisted, or that you weren't ready to open up? Did it take some time building up to that before you fully accepted it and embraced therapy?
I guess a little bit, but like, to be honest, the medication they had me on made it such a blur that I was just like, so like they had me on Zoloft and Klonopin, and like, like the first time I was put on that kind of like like SSIDs, like the serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Was it early in this like mental health journey that they put you on the medication?
Oh yeah, they put me on medication like immediately.
Oh wow,
that's kind of like the gist of
like, wow, we don't want this guy to kill himself. Let's put him on this medication,
and then have him like do talking and stuff, and like we did all that, but like, and I took journals and like drew and talked, and but yeah, the first time I was on Zoloft, like we were, so they, on the ship when we're refueling, right? Refueling, there's a fueling tank that comes up, and they like throw fuel lines get like pushed across, and like we refuel. They close the smoking deck so you can't smoke. And it's called the smoking lamp is off, is off, and so you're not allowed to go out there. So we're waiting in line, me and my buddy. While I met a guy named Philip Stahl. He's a great guy. We lost contact, but that's kind of normal when military, when you're not like next to each other.
It's kind of like people you went to high school with.
Yeah, essentially. But Philip Stahl was like, I met him through this orientation thing where, and we like bonded, and he helped me through a lot of stuff, through my therapy and stuff. He helped me, kept a eye on me, took me out. I needed he took like vacation days, essentially. Like, he got out of duty to like, there was moments like when like my therapist was like, hey, you need to take a U day, and like go do stuff. And so like he was able to like get out of going to work, and we went and like to like the amusement park.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like kind of shit like that. But like yeah, we ended up living together, and after we got back to the States from deployment, and like there's millions of stories we could go. I don't want to, but we were standing in line to wait for the smoking lamp to be lit, and so we can go out to smoke. And I just lit up a cigarette right in the hangar bay. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know I was doing it. I didn't wake up mentally until I was in the smoking deck smoking another cigarette. Wow. And my buddy was like, dude, 2 officers walked past you and was wondering what the about to rail you on. And I had to mitigate, was like, he has no idea where he's at right now. He just got to put on medication, and he has no idea what he's doing. And they just let me smoke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like,
I mean, they probably understood what that was like and seen that before.
But I was so a lot of my, unfortunately, there's a lot of times that it's just blurry because like I was just gone.
Yeah, you were
like
kind of zombified.
I was a zombie. Yeah. And so, yeah, unfortunately. And so like,
did you eventually adjust to the medication and get better?
Yeah. I adjusted, had different meds, tried different things, but like, and I had medication up until even when I got back out of the military. I was on medication and stuff. But
did you have a therapist outside of
the military? Yeah, I had a little bit for a while. I just life happened and I got sidetracked into other things. But yeah.
So throughout, I know it's really difficult to sum this up. I mean,
yeah.
There's so much you gain from it. But what you could tell me just a little bit about what you remember of it, because you were on medication throughout this time. What did talking to someone and what did therapy help do for you?
So I remember clearly on those points. It helped me realize that it wasn't my fault. That not saying the like anger or like me being an asshole or those things are my regrets or like anything I do, but all the things that happened that were not my control I had no fault. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't ask what if or why or if I did this, if I did that. I could ask all those questions, but it solidified that I wasn't responsible for what happened to other people or what happened to all these other things, that I could only control what I did.
Was there sort of a guilt or a sense of responsibility for those things before this point?
Yeah, pretty much. And it really made me like just feel like it was all my fault and everything was on my shoulders, and that responsibility to put on adolescence and that feeling to have on an adolescent is something I wouldn't want for anyone.
Now, when you had this realization, did you look back on your life thus far differently?
Yeah, I regretted like pretty much all the decisions I made.
The decisions you made through this persona? The persona that you had created.
Yeah, through the persona, through like closing myself off, through the interactions I had with people, through the relationships I had with romantic relationships I had with people, how I treated them, how I treated my family, how I treated my friends, how I did everything. Like, I regretted it all. Regretted not, like, didn't regret going into the military, but also regretted not working harder and doing something else. Didn't regret the decision for me not to be as studious as I was. All the what ifs that I could do then. But then I realized, like, also I could always ask what if for everything. And if I live my life in regret, then I'm never going to be happy.
So it sounds kind of like it gave you the clarity to let go of the guilt you felt for the things you couldn't control, but also accept responsibility for the mistakes you've made of the things you could control.
Yeah, exactly.
And did that sort of help structure your mind in a way that made sense that you can understand and move forward from?
Oh yeah, it definitely allowed me to be comfortable with what happened. It allowed me to remember what happened to a point. A lot of stuff I still blocked out. It allowed me to be comfortable with sharing it, with talking about it, with opening up, with being vulnerable. It was the step to allow me to be... It was the first step to getting me to the point to who I am now, to my vulnerability, to my sensitivity, and being okay with it, and being okay with being a sensitive person.
So from the moment you started to have the suicidal thoughts, to this realization, and this kind of change you experienced, what kind of time frame was that?
A
year?
Yeah. I think I didn't really fully have this realization until I was like mid-20s. And like, I still had the persona. So the persona was still with me until like, I would say 2 years into I and my ex-wife's relationship. So from 20 till about 23 is when like I was breaking the persona away. Like it was fully gone. And like I was learning who I was at like 23.
So it wasn't just like it wasn't like a mask that you take off and put back on. It was sort of like,
it was like the mask that I had to pull off with all my force, like the movie The Mask, if anybody is like from the 90s.
The way I'm kind of imagining it in my head in a way that helps me understand it is like a ceramic mask that is shattered, and you have to pull off pieces and throw them away to reveal your true self.
And it's like, but it's like stuck on you, like how the movie The Mask is like stuck on the person's face.
So each piece takes a lot of effort to pull away.
Yeah, and it's a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I don't think I truly have been my true self until 2 years ago. Until I was 26, maybe 3 years, 26. I think when I hit 26 and I separated from my wife, my ex-wife, and I went on like my journey to self-actualization and knowing, and is really when I like everything was gone.
Are there ever still times in your life where you see glimpses of that persona? Maybe not that you present outwardly, but if you encounter something difficult or something you don't know how to process, is there ever still an instinct for that persona to want to take over that you have to push away, or tell yourself you're not that person anymore?
No, I remember having those moments prior to 2018, 2019, but like now I don't. Like there's moments where like I feel like the anxiety of like pressure, and like I feel like I'll feel the like I'll get like upset or like angry at feeling like I'm being attacked, but like, and that like will bring about an emotion, but like I know where that emotion's coming from. It's not coming from like the feeling of like wanting to run away. It's just the anxiety feeling. But I've never felt the want to run away again. So
wow, that's big, man. No, congratulations on that.
It was one of the biggest like hurdles, and probably the biggest hurdle to get over was the feeling of wanting to run away.
Well, I'd like to get into this relationship more fully, maybe on because I'd like to have you on again.
I would love to be on again.
Maybe next time I have you on, we'll talk about this more fully. But your current partner,
yes.
How much did that relationship and her experiences and being around her help you become more comfortable with your true self?
So I think I have to explain a little bit. Like, I think we'll get in probably next time into like my ex-wife and stuff, but like,
right.
My ex-wife was not great, didn't treat me great, and we'll just like keep it on that. So like when we separated, and I had like a year, I had like close to a year to myself. I ended up traveling, went on kind of on a spiritual journey, and it was that journey when I went to Peru, and then I went to Iceland, and I was hiking and being alone and just being around people, and I met people and talked to them and enjoying, but really it was Iceland where I had that feeling of like, I don't want to run away anymore. And so I spent a lot of time with myself and gaining knowledge and understanding and learning about myself and being intimate and being vulnerable. And like when I met Carly, I met her at my sister's house on New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. And like it was a weird feeling because I had a weird gut feeling of like I was going, like, I'm always very in tune with what I feel like the universe is telling me in my gut. I always follow my gut, and like my gut was telling me to go to this thing, and like for reasons, and it was like I was going to meet somebody, and I was ready to, and it was like, looking back, that's what I knew the feeling is. And so like meeting her, and we clicked, and we started talking, and essentially we started dating.
Right, without the
label or anything. We started dating and getting to know each other and helping her with her journey. Because I was in a place, and I was still spiritually egoistic.
Egotistic?
Yeah, egotistic.
Egoistic might be a word too. I'm not sure.
Who knows?
Let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah. But I still had a spiritual ego, and I think everybody still does.
Right.
And I don't deny not having an ego. But I was helping her through her journey because we both got out of a toxic-ish relationship at the same time. Around the same time, essentially. February, March, April region of 2019. No, 2019. No, 2018. Yes. Sorry.
You look at the camera and say, sorry, babe.
You guys, we all went through 2020. We all live in time soup. It's okay.
That's a good way of putting it.
So we both had the similar experiences, had partners that weren't stimulating enough, had overwhelming spiritual, like, wanting to know more, like, needed to, like, grow, like, that aha moment, like, what am I doing? There's something I need to do. And wanted to work on ourselves and didn't want to be tied down. And so we started out as friends, and, like, and then, like, with quotations, and then eventually...
And we'll go deeper into this next time about how you all met in your relationship.
Yeah. And it progressed further and further, and eventually, like, there was, we eventually solidified everything, and we helping her with her journey of, like, growth, and I knew I didn't want. When I met her, she wasn't the right person for me. She had the potential, and I saw that. And my gut said that. And, like, so I wanted to be there for her to help guide her and, like, help her with her growth. Because my experiences allowed me to have that knowledge of, like, kind of similar experiences she's gone through and how I overcame them. And I was there and just listened. I just listened to her and gave her advice, but mostly we just talked a lot and got a deeper understanding, and we were very compatible. And because we both knew we didn't want partners that were like overly zealous and like over controlling, and we had our own stuff and we wanted to do our own stuff, and like we're okay with doing our own things without each other. We don't need to know where everybody is at all times, and we just have very healthy communication. And like,
what about helping her and guiding her and being there for her on her journey? What about that eventually made you realize, oh, this actually helped me on my journey?
It was when she was like talking about her, like her self-image, and like, and I think she's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
everything. Like I don't find a flaw, but like when she was talking about her self-image and like things that she was feeling down about, and like I realized they were like the same kind of things I used to think about, and like how much I grew from it, and like seeing her grow into loving herself was like the most fulfilling thing that I felt that like I needed on my journey. It was like the very last thing to like wipe away all aspects of my old self and bring me into my new shell. Was like I was able to help another person and fulfill that. Like I felt fulfilled by just being there.
So being there and helping and witnessing that change, you think was the final nail in the coffin for your old persona?
Yeah, was the final nail to be like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be here and now with another person. And it's okay to not have control over any of it. And to just be there. Just be there.
I can't think of a better way to end this conversation than that.
Yeah.
Next, I definitely want to have you on again soon.
Oh, dude, I love it.
I want to dive into your relationship with your ex-wife.
Oh yeah.
Your spiritual journey, and your travels abroad, and how more deeply into how you met Carly and how that transformed.
Yeah. It was.
So many things that, so many more things I'd like to talk to you about.
Of course.
Next time I have you on.
No, I'd love to.
Before we go, I've started asking my guests something that you're reading, watching, playing that you're enjoying that you recommend. Do you have any recommendations to give to people?
I mean, right now I'm reading the Wheel of Time series because I watched the show, and I really like the books, and I like fantasy and stuff, so I'm reading the Wheel of Time. They're like 14 novels in a series, so it's like a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, if you haven't tried Magic the Gathering, try Magic the Gathering. It's really fun.
I agree.
You don't need a lot of money. You don't have to be like me and be super into it, but...
So, did you like the Wheel of Time show? Because I tried watching the first episode or two. I didn't really.
I watched. So I'll watch anything, man. So my guilty pleasure is terrible television. Yeah. Like I'll watch. What's a terrible TV show that is just god awful?
Big Bang Theory.
Oh yeah, I'll watch that. I watched the show MacGyver. That's terrible. And not the old one, like the new remake one. It's not good. It's entertaining, but it's like if it's not. There's a difference between really good television and really bad TV, and I love bad TV.
It sounds kind of like you enjoy TV in a similar sort of way I do. Like, we both have our shows that we actively really enjoy that, like, do require thought and critical thinking to explore the concepts behind it.
Oh, yeah.
But it sounds like me and you both kind of have a lot going on up here all the time, that sometimes watching those sort of mindless or actively bad shows help us just to like turn off our brain for a little while and have some good dumb fun.
Carly will get like she was just like, how do you watch that? Like, I was like, dude, it's terrible. It's such bad TV and I love it.
Yeah. I kind of feel the same way about watching, intentionally watching bad movies. Bad, or like bad, like horror movies.
Oh yeah. It's just like that. It's so bad. It's just so great.
Yeah.
But no, I suggest reading the Wheel of Time series. It's pretty good. I like it so far. It's
better than the show so far?
Yeah, it's very I'm on the 4th book. It's very like there's a lot of story to be told. So like the characters involved get like a lot of time, and it's not just one singular character over all the whole series. But regardless of that, I read a lot of I just read a lot of fantasy books. I do a lot of crypto stuff.
Yeah.
If you like math and science and like mathematics and charts.
Now, for legal reasons, we are not advising.
I'm not advising you to buy anything.
Yeah, don't invest in crypto. He's saying research it if you enjoy that sort of thing. Research
chart reading and like GAN analysis and stuff like that. Like if you like charts and stuff and like mathematics and like the psychological aspects of how markets work, look into that kind of stuff. Like look into some chart readings. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just doing a podcast with a buddy of mine in a place with a Magic the Gathering sign. Don't listen to anything we say. So that is it. But yeah.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming to do this.
Of course, anytime,
This has been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to have you back on.
I can't wait to be back on.
And, if you like this video and you enjoyed it, go check out the other episodes on my channel.
Yes,
subscribe, like, comment, all that other
Ring the bell, I guess. Yeah, whatever
YouTubers say. But thanks for watching, and thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
You're a dear friend. I love you dearly.
I love you too, man.
And with that, thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.